Go Show with your host, Matt McKeever, and Jeff's just setting up the Instagram live feed, so he'll be live on his Instagram channel, so just getting that set up. I think he's probably just 30 seconds away.
I'm here.
Here we go.
Relax. Yeah, hair squad.
So welcome to another Cashflow Go Show, the second one of 2018. So it's been an interesting week, both weather-wise, real estate-wise, everything-wise. So
we're moving to Florida after this southwestern
yeah.
Ontario weather.
So literally, I was up at 4 a.m. this morning. I've been doing some like weird two-phase sleeping stuff, and anyways, it was 10 degrees out.
Yeah,
it was
literally
10
in my
degrees.
car the other day.
Yeah.
And I was like, wasn't it just like you want to never go outside temperature yesterday?
Yeah, we went from the Arctic and just literally all the snow to 10 degrees, and now we're back to getting all the snow again. It's been, I think I'm done with winter.
Yeah, that's the problem, southwestern Ontario right now, global warming, whatever. But like, real estate wise, people were still out doing showings. They're crazy.
Yeah, and like the weird thing is the market's actually stayed way hotter than I predicted. If you guys like go back and watch some of the cash flows in October, November, I was predicting that once we got real snow, once we got real winter, the shit was going to dry up.
So maybe it's like all these little breaks. Everybody's like, okay, let's go. I'm like, oh, it's just snowing. It'll be gone in 2 days. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so different than any other winter I've experienced as a real estate investor.
This has got to be some of the most snow in the city we've seen. Well, 2 days ago before it rained.
Yeah.
Since I've been like a kid.
I was gonna say like since like
the snowbanks.
2010, 2011, like we had that Snowmageddon, but otherwise, that was it. And like the shitty part is we don't got jobs now, so we don't even get snow days when it happens. No. Or at least when Snowmageddon happened back in 2010, 11, I just called in snow days.
Well, that's the beauty too. We can work from home and be very productive, right?
Yeah.
And you look outside and you see everybody shoveling their driveways and everything. You're like, I got someplace to go.
Yeah, I just need to clean off my car for a
I'm
week.
just gonna write emails. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna search.
Yeah, well, actually,
it's like hibernation.
No, the shitty weather makes me work so much harder for private deals. Like I've just been scraping Kijiji and the MLS way more than I had for the last 2 months, just because the moment I don't clean off my car, I'm not going anywhere, so I might as well find some deals.
Have you even cleaned your car off and have you driven?
I did when like the weather was nice, like when everything melted off of it.
His car is basically just
just a snow bank. But so it's definitely 2018's got off to an interesting start as well. There was a little tidbit you were going to share about the financing landscape here in Canada.
Just briefly before I came here, I saw that the basis points are going up again. So
I think 2 of the major banks did it.
TD and another one. If
Royal
Bank did it. Usually Royal's the one leading.
We got randomly interesting here. Anybody on my Instagram right now?
So jump into the comment section and say hi to Adam, randomly interesting. Also smash that like button if you haven't smashed that like button already. And why haven't you shared it on social media? I'm just saying, sharing is caring, guys. But otherwise,
so lots of things actually happened. So Graham Stephan made a group. A millionaire real estate Facebook group. So there's been a lot of traffic going on in there. We just briefly shared in there, and if anybody is watching from that current or later when it's recorded, Matt and I have both been featured on Graham's channel before, so. Good to see you if you know who we are.
Graham definitely is part of the reason that our channels have got as much momentum as they have. Just last week on the Cashflow Go Show Live, Jeff hit the 500 subscriber mark. If you just saw that, that was our mic dropping off the mic stand, guys. So that's how excited Jeff is about getting to 500 subscribers. So also shout out to Tiffany, who was your 500th subscriber.
We're sending you the...
she DM'd me today. We're going to send you a signed copy of the ERE book. Craziest part of that is she already had a copy but still wants a copy signed by us, so that's really cool. Appreciate that.
So now it's her job to pass on her other copy. Pay it forward
to someone else. That'd be fantastic. And the other thing was last week I started playing around with Amazon affiliate links, and so just threw that up on my channel. And the ERE book, the book that we're giving away for free, was actually on sale for like $11 Canadian. So I did a little plug on my channel, and 21 of you actually ordered the ERE book. Which that's really awesome. That was so cool to see.
$15?
I made $16 off of that, yeah. And the $16 is cool, but what's even cooler is the fact that like 21 people now are going to have the ERE book the day before. Like, it literally feels like spreading the good word.
So all those people, make sure you Snapchat it or Instagram and tag Matt in the post.
DM me of you reading it. I'd love to. If you guys want to do like a video book review, send me like, whether it's like a 30-second clip or a 30-minute clip, I don't care. Send me a video book review you've done and I'll throw it up on my channel. More than happy to do that because I'd love to get other people's perspectives on the Early Retirement Extreme book because just earlier this week I had someone claiming it was complete lies and fake and all that.
Don't want to mention?
It was just like a deep comment on a random video that the guy was like, please people don't listen to him, he's lying. I'm just like, I'm not even sure what my angle is.
We've talked about this before. Like, I had some haters on Kijiji. They have nothing better to do but troll and say comments. It's like, okay, so you don't have $3 million?
Yeah.
Do I keep pursuing this, or they just want to hate, right?
Yeah. So. At least for every hater, we have like 10 fans. So shout out to Carlos who set up the Jeff Weibel hair squad. The Jeff Weibel's hair. Yeah, which actually let's get some memes going on that, guys.
Yeah,
I would love to get some stuff.
How many followers?
He's got 26 followers.
26 followers on my hair.
So start making something happen with that, because if not, I'm gonna set up a competing account and just put you on notice.
Good luck.
No, I want to make it a meme. I want to go all in on Jeff Weibel's hair this year. That's going to be one of my major investments.
Before the end of the show, there's going to be a meme now.
Yeah, that's all I can ask for. So otherwise, this week I started doing some playing around with the formatting on my channel a little bit, doing like 3-4 minute little update videos just from job sites, kind of just in the trenches. And actually, the feedback I've been getting from everyone's been fantastic. So thank you very much. I'll definitely keep doing it. Me and Jeff will start trying to go live more too when we're just out in the field and give you those little snippets of a day in the life. Because what do you guys want to see? Tell us and we'll start producing it. Otherwise, jump in the comment section and start asking us your real estate questions or your realtor questions. Earlier today on Instagram Live, there was that question about what courses to take as a realtor. So you kind of discussed it there, Jeff, but just...
Like, they're mandatory courses you have to take, so it's not like, oh, I'm just taking specific courses. So you got to follow whatever province or state you're in, you just got to do what they tell you to do, unfortunately. So I was seeing some comments on other grants or other people, real estate YouTube comments, and they're like, I don't want to be a realtor, I'm just going to be an investor, but should I like read the book? And most people are like, no. Like, you're just wasting your time.
Absolutely.
Because it's all stuff you can learn as you kind of need. You don't really need to know the in-depth stuff that I do as the investor. I have all these laws I have to follow, you don't. So like, you're just kind of wasting your time. So.
Yeah, I definitely want to get, unless you're going to be a realtor, I don't think you should get bogged down in the courses, at least based on the way the Ontario, Canada system works. It may be different in your region or market. One other thing that was kind of interesting this week, we're just in the process of refinancing the one project that Graham showcased when I was on his channel, and we just heard back from the lawyers on that refinance, and so everything's going well there. But what was actually really interesting is we bought the property in cash, we're now refinancing it, and somehow between when we bought it cash and go to refinance it, the seller's lawyer had reached out to our lawyer and like made an apology because they had messed up the statement of adjustments. So we ended up getting $4,000 more than we expected, and like we originally thought that we were supposed to get it. We bought them and we just gave up and we're like, whatever, it's a good enough deal anyways. But my business partner was telling me about this when he was at the lawyer signing the paperwork, and he brought up, he was like, it's not about the $4,000 because it was $2,000 each, which was great, but like that's not the thing. He was like, how often is it that we get a small win in real estate? He was like, usually the way real estate works is you get the big win. The big win's the refinance, it's the getting the deal under contract or flipping the property successfully. But then, usually you have this big win and then just tons of small losses, right? The small losses are when it goes over budget, when you go over time, when things don't go your way, when the city cracks down on you, all that bullshit. But it was actually really cool to actually get a small win, because they're kind of few and far between. And so I kind of want to share that with you guys, because I think that's a really good lesson, and I plan on doing a separate video on my channel about it. But it's true. Like as a real estate investor, like you can't get discouraged by these small losses because they're going to stack up a lot. The key is, as long as the small losses don't add up to more than the big win, you're okay. You're in the black.
So that's your one for the year? Or?
Yeah, I think. Well, I can't even remember one from last year that was a small win. So, you know, there's big wins, and big wins are awesome. But it was just kind of cool to have a small win. They don't happen that often. And otherwise.
What else we got? We got meetups.
So we're just going to reiterate that January 24th in Windsor at Big Jim's.
I think so. Matt French.
Yeah. Matt French.
And I put it on the Cashflow Go Instagram account.
True.
You can see there. But Windsor people will be coming to your area.
So yeah, definitely make sure you come out, invite your friends, family, anyone that's interested in real estate or even just in an industry adjacent to real estate. So, you know, if you're another realtor, feel free to come out. If you're a mortgage broker, a lawyer, an accountant, come out. There's going to be all kinds of business-oriented individuals. It's all about just networking, learning, and growing together. So don't be afraid to come out and just say hi. We'll be there, and we'll probably even end up crewing up and bringing a small group with us from London. So definitely check that out. And then the week after, we're going to be in Toronto for the GTA meetup. I think that's going to be somewhere in Vaughan. So Mitt CPA is managing that for us. And otherwise, just a reminder, you guys want a Cashflow to Go meetup group in your city. The best way to make that happen is just to reach out to one of us and tell us that you'll start running it. And we'll be more than happy to help coordinate that with you. Because we're hoping to spread out countrywide this year. Yeah,
cool.
So,
and then limo tour on the 21st.
Oh yeah. And so actually we teased about it a little bit on Instagram, but one potential pocket flip listing. So I think that'll be really interesting. It seems like the perfect kind of property. Hydro's been shut off. You know, there are hoarders, all that great stuff. There's multiple broken vehicles parked in the front yard. Everything you want in a flip property. So definitely you're gonna want to check out the limo tour for that.
And this will be the last time the limo tour is being run the way we've been running it.
So we'll be reformatting in February. So if you haven't been out to a limo tour and you want to get that experience, definitely come out to this January one because you'll get a whole different experience in February. February we're going to be much more, I guess, just more organized, and it's going to be more polished and maybe even a little bit more selective, and the content's just going to get.
Because it's been great. We've had 29 bodies out there. It sounds great, but maybe you as the individual aren't getting
the one-on-one attention
and it's hard for us to manage 29 people going through 8 properties, as you can imagine. That are 2 bedrooms and this and that. Units.
We've probably just been lucky we haven't lost a person yet.
There's been times I think I've locked the door and somebody was like coming back and undoing the deadbolt. And I'm like, where have you been? I'm in the basement. I'm like,
and there's just something about having to set up the buddy system on a limo that just doesn't feel right. So
anyways, we're probably gonna go a bit smaller on the future ones.
More exclusive.
More exclusive. Remember, we can also do any coaching clinics before or after.
So I think that's going to be a big part of it too, is having purpose-built kind of coaching or lectures at the start before we actually go out into the field, and then having a much more curated networking thing afterwards with maybe other mortgage brokers and other people that are in related fields where you can really, you know, tap into their network as well as just their experience and knowledge. Because we sampled with that last time and it was very successful, so we want to do more.
A lot of guys were pretty positive on the mortgage brokers that were there and everything that we did, and they loved that January or the December limo tour. So no pressure on the January, and then we're gonna change it all up in February and keep you guys guessing, I guess.
But you can still expect, usually we're gonna have half MLS deals, half private deals. So that's one of the biggest selling features, is in addition to just the fantastic networking environment, is the opportunity to get kind of first sight at some of these private deals. So
and some of you, I know the Windsor guys have been asking for a Windsor limo tour.
And that'll definitely happen in 2018 at some point. And otherwise, Matt French, our Windsor connection, he's been sharing on, I think I saw it on Facebook or Instagram, but his renovation project, and it's definitely been fun watching along. Looked like he ran into some issues in his bathroom where they had to completely tear out some floor joists. Definitely been there, done that. So
I'm just impressed. He's went from nothing on social pretty much to now he's understanding what we're doing, and now he's trying to do it. He's showing his projects, he's showing his social life a little bit. Now people will come to his meeting in Windsor.
Absolutely.
And you'll be the guy.
And that's a huge point. So last week or earlier this week, I did a video on partnerships. And a lot of people have been reaching out to me like, what's the best way to get partners to come to you? What's the best way to attract partners? And honestly, I think becoming an expert's the best way, but in addition to that, showing people that you're an expert, right? There's a reason why we do these YouTube videos. There's a reason why Jeff has 10,000 Instagram followers, and it's because if people don't know what you're doing, they don't know what you're doing. So that's a huge problem for a lot of us real estate investors is that, you know, we get into the trenches and we're focused on that one deal, but if we're not showing or telling people what we're doing, you know, how do we expect the next deal to come together? How do we expect to get the next money partner if people aren't aware? So you need to be constantly networking and don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
And we'll touch on this maybe, or at least I will, on the big picture, and it's people, or on the high level, people are not thinking, some people, big picture right now.
Yes.
This stuff can take a long time. So you gotta put yourself out there, you gotta do the Instagram snaps, you gotta do the Snapchat, you gotta do all that stuff. You gotta go out and talk to people, and like potential money will not come back to you like that night.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. Literally on the car ride over here, we were discussing about, I was saying that there's been a ton of recent Western students reaching out to me, which shout out to anyone watching from Western right now. I really appreciate that.
Is Andrew in the chat?
And whether you like Western or not, smash the like button. But what's really cool is all these young, hungry, motivated individuals from Western are reaching out to us. Now, are they the perfect money partner? No. Are they the perfect, you know, deal partner? No. And are they going to get you a real estate commission tomorrow? Probably not. But 5, 10 years from now, building that influence, building that, helping those people, paying it forward, I think will come back to us in multitudes of dividends. And it's one of those things where it's fuzzy. You can't pinpoint exactly where the value is, but we know by giving.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're probably still some of the people that are giving right now and not asking as much.
Yeah, and we mainly just bitch to each other when we get frustrated by that.
So you guys don't have to hear about it.
Yeah, we try and limit our griping, but otherwise, jump in the comment section, ask us your real estate questions because we're more than happy to answer them. That's the whole point of the show. What's is much going on there?
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit. Chat's actually pretty lively today. We've got 24 viewers right now.
That's awesome.
18 likes. Do you guys want to just jump into some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Sash wants to know, I plan to flip some properties. Is it worthwhile to become a licensed real estate agent in order to save on commissions? So maybe some explanation of how that actually works.
Sure. But I know, for example, in our network, we got a lot of guys that flip, or a couple key ones in the city, and they find all their private deals usually themselves. If it's on the MLS, they'll use the realtor, so I'd be like doing the bitch work pretty much, writing the offers. You're not necessarily, it's about my job getting you that good price anyways. If I get paid, great, you're still getting that, the property, but what he's good at is like negotiating personally, but then he uses a realtor to sell because he's already on to the next thing and he doesn't want to like focus on that. And like you went and visited with Steph and Arnio.
And so like I discussed this a little bit on my channel way back in the day, but there definitely was an inflection point for myself. You know, before I found Jeff, I hadn't found a good real estate, a good real estate agent that was focused on investors. And so I debated with myself constantly, did I want to become a real estate agent? But one thing that I think a lot of initial investors don't take into consideration is there's a lot more disclosures if you're going to be a real estate agent, particularly if you're trying to buy something or sell it, and that can really hold you back if you're focused on flipping. Now there are agents that figure out workarounds around that, or they'll end up actually using an agent even though they are an agent, just to kind of insulate themselves from having to do those disclosures. But essentially, by the time you get to that point, you know, you're muddying the water, that you're not really getting the same advantage that you initially set out to accomplish. But I think, to me, it really boils down to, what do you want to be good at? Do you want to be a good real estate agent or a good flipper? Because I think it's tough to be both. And so I think that's the
cost
big thing.
Being an agent adds up, and if you just think you're going to be just a flipper, and then you're going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to go make some more commission with other people, but then you start getting drained by them a little bit because you're looking at condos, you're looking at this, and you're not just focusing on that. I'd suggest just trying to do one yourself, find it privately if that, flip it successfully, use the agent, and then if eventually you get really good at that and you want to cut out that middleman, then go for it.
Yeah, and at the same time, you know, there are investors that we know that they'll negotiate with their agent, and if they give them a high volume of transactions, they'll get it for a cheaper price. Again, the thing is though, you sometimes have to consider, if that agent isn't getting paid the same commission on your deal as an equivalent deal, you know, they're going to be focused on their self-interest at the end of the day. So are they really going to give their full effort if they're only getting 1%?
Unless they're big picture oriented, but I'll tell you, most aren't.
Yeah, and like it's just natural human psychology.
We got bills, right?
Yeah, so. And so at the end of the day, you know, they're focused on getting them deals. And so the same thing is, if, you know, unless you can be completely focused and fully follow your market all at once, it's useful to have those connections with realtors. And often, you know, if you're a realtor yourself, what's the incentive for another realtor to reach out to you and say, hey, I think that this property would be a great flip. Whereas if you have like a stable of realtors out there looking for you, you know, you can have multiple relationships with multiple realtors as long as you're open about that from the beginning and manage expectations. Most realtors will be fine with that, and what ends up happening is that way you end up with kind of an army of realtors out there looking on your behalf. So I think that that's just another thing to consider. So at the end of the day, I think that for a lot of investors, that becoming a real estate agent is actually a distraction. It's not quite as simple and easy as we'd like it to be. Now, if you're a state or region, if it's literally you can just like write a test and you're done, I think that maybe changes the equation. But
some of the legal stuff.
But again, be very aware of the disclosures you're going to have to write up, because the moment that you have to go in as, so for example, my understanding in Ontario is, let's say I was a real estate agent and I want to buy this deal off someone. I would have to go and approach them, and essentially when I write out my offer to them, I have to state, look, you know, I may buy and hold this, I may flip it, I may do this, that, and the other thing. And what often that does is, it's going to spook the seller, right? They're going to be like, wait, what? You're a flipper? And, you know, even though a lot of properties that get bought by flippers, the seller sort of knows it's going to a flipper, the moment it becomes real that a flipper's buying it, they get seller's remorse. They get concerned about their lost opportunity there. So I think that's just another thing to be aware of. In general, I'd say you're better off not becoming a realtor than becoming a realtor if your main goal is to become a real estate investor or a flipper in particular. Just my 2 cents though. I think everyone's going to have a different experience.
Yeah. And if you want to be a real estate agent and do like one flip a year, then go for it.
Yeah, and there's lots of those real estate agents too that just kind of nibble as an investor. Yeah.
All right, we got a question from Miranda. How long did it take Jeff to get his license? What's the best way to get it done quickly? Any tips?
Yeah, I did it in 80-something days. So pretty much I had to do 3 tests, and the problem in Ontario was you couldn't book the next test until you got your passing mark, and then you were subject to availability of open test dates. So basically, I just tried to do the quickest one in advance. So say 3 weeks from now, whatever was, pick a date. And then, okay, life's going on, you start studying closer to, because we all procrastinate on everything.
Yeah.
Right? You take that last whatever many, because you didn't know what the first test, how hard it was going to be or what it's like. So you probably overstudied on that one, right? Then you start learning how the tests go. Past that one, in Ontario, you can take the iPad exam or the paper exam, okay? iPad exams are on like a weekday, and the paper exams are at like universities on a Saturday or something like that. The problem with the paper exam is it takes 6-something days or 5 business days or whatever to get to mark.
Gotcha.
Because it's Scantron or whatever they call it. You don't get your mark online for that many days. So then you're those many days behind. Then when you go to book the next 3 weeks out, well, that test is already full. So then you gotta like 4 weeks. Maybe it's not in your city. Then you gotta go to Toronto or North Bay. It was
letting people know that you're out there.
Yeah, don't hide in your house, study, and then 5 months later tell everybody I'm a realtor. Like why not use that time a little bit, right? So
yeah, and sorry if we're cutting in and out. It seems like we're having a little bit of internet issues right now. Hopefully you'll hang in there with us, Kitty, but it is what it is. So
so it took me that three months, and then I had to write 3 within the next 2 years, and I think I got those 3 done within a year. And I remember doing my last one on a Sunday night. I was in multiple offers on a sell. I was selling. I got like 6 offers or something that I'm dealing with this. I didn't get to bed till like 11 o'clock at night and had the exam the next morning at 9. But guess what? I found a way.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, honestly. Like, how many people have we seen approach real estate half-assed, where, you know, it's literally like they have 3 days before they have to do this course, or else they're going to like get in suspension or something, or like they haven't studied, or they failed to test, or they're stretching it to the, and it's like, listen, like, are you trying to do this or not?
So yeah, if you're like an entrepreneur, you can understand like 80-20 principle. You can manage time. It's not that hard. There's some agents or beginner agents, because they're still studying, they bury themselves in the library for like 5 days to write this, how many questions is it, like 50 question test or whatever it is, and it's like, really? Like, it's like, definitely not the first one, maybe the second answer, definitely not this one, maybe this one, so it's 50-50, it's like, do you like boats, do you like houses, do you like airplanes?
Yeah, and I think that's the key. Like, way too many people, they put one toe into the real estate agent thing, and it's like, being a part-time real estate agent, I think for most people is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you're not going to be on the top of your game, so you're only dealing with friends or family, and then when you're only dealing with friends and family, you get into these situations where you have that relationship pressure as well, right? I think that, like, personally, the idea of becoming a part-time realtor, I do not understand why someone would want to approach it that way. At the end, like, either go all in or not, in my opinion, but that's just mine.
Yeah, there's successful part-time realtors that was on Graham's channel in Los Angeles, and maybe there's success when one deal a year is an annual salary.
Yeah, it definitely is different, but I just like,
don't get that here.
I think for the amount of work you have to put in our market versus the reward, like, it makes a lot more sense to become an expert, to really do it. Same with the idea of, like, rather than becoming like a sort of landlord, the idea of having one student rental, to me, I hate the idea of only one student rental. There's no scales of efficiency there. I think the same thing comes down with being a part-time realtor.
You're starting off with like negative $8,000 or something like that when it's all said and done, and then you start paying the board fees and you start paying brokerage fees, whatever those are with your brokerage. So it's like every month you're like negative cash flow from day one.
Yeah.
And then the pressure's on, and then that's why a lot of agents get so nervous, and they're like used car salesmen, like they want you to buy.
You can smell the fear.
You can smell the fear in them, right? So you don't really want to put yourself in that position, becoming a new agent. So, but I will have my 20, or I probably have more now. I did my bullet points.
Oh, did you?
My
awesome.
20-something tips about being an agent in the first year coming out. Watch for it soon.
Cool.
In January.
Yep. So.
Question from a user out here. I want to know if you guys have ever heard of Morris Turnkey Investing. Looks like it's a property manager guy.
So Morris.
Your thoughts on him?
So
YouTube,
like I know him more via the YouTube angle, and so what I've seen of his content seems fantastic. He also does operate turnkey business.
Central States, is it? Or
somewhere. And like before that, he was like a news anchor on a morning show, and then he recently just left that to be kind of this real estate guru full time. All of his free online stuff I've seen is fantastic. I highly recommend you guys check it out, in addition to our channels, obviously. As far as his turnkey business goes, like, we've never actually personally dealt with him, so I don't think that we're expert enough to discuss on that. But I think the key is, when you're looking at a turnkey provider, really map out what you're trying to accomplish by buying the turnkey property, and then just compare it to whether they're actually meeting your requirements. And definitely don't just go with the first turnkey provider you find. There's dozens and dozens of them out there, all of varying degrees, and all that provide slightly different services. So make sure you're comparing apples to apples whether you're looking at Morris or Ohio Cashflow or any of the guys on YouTube that do turnkey investments. Just kind of good for that. So
right on. Okay. What kind of cash-on-cash return can I expect to get in London, Ontario? Duplex, triplex, fourplex. My 2018 goal is to make $3,000 in cash flow. What kind of property should I target?
A lot of multifamily, higher multifamily. So probably pretty, unless you're getting like 3 triplexes or something like that. If you could get 6plex, 7plex on one shot, you're probably better off trying to get that $3,000 cash flow. It's a stretch though.
I would say in general, a lot of real estate investors in our market are looking somewhere between maybe $100 and $300 a door in cash flow per month. So if you're looking to get that $3,000 a month in cash flow, you know, again, I would expect you're probably going to need somewhere between maybe 10 to 30 units, depending on how those units are. Obviously, properties that have lower class tenants are going to cash flow better, but they're going to come with more headaches. So that's going to be a trade-off. You're going to have to determine whether you want to make or not.
I got lots of those for sale. So.
Yeah. But yeah, so it really does come down to exactly what you're trying to accomplish. Otherwise, you know, very strong cash flowing properties in London, Ontario, student rentals. Again, you're going to have much more hands-on management of it, or you're going to have higher repairs and maintenance than you would otherwise. But you can emotionally detach from tenants punching a hole through your hallway so they can look at each other while they go to the bathroom. I mean, you can get good cash flow.
Yeah. And you get
true story.
You get video games every
yeah, all the used Xbox and PlayStation games you could ever want. Same with all the clothes from Abercrombie and Fitch and H&M. All the clothes. You could literally open up your own thrift store every year.
So, and have you noticed, or have you, for your student rentals, you weren't cash flowing on 1,000 year one. Sometimes that takes a bit of while.
Yeah, it really depends on the story. So, you know, like, if you're, say, buying a property on Thurman Circle, Fleming, Prosperity, Farnsborough, these are all Fanshawe College neighborhoods. In general, if you can, say, get your rents to about $500 a bedroom, I'd expect you could cash flow somewhere between $700 to $1,000 a month per student rental house. Now, that's going to be you managing it, so you're not paying a manager, and that's going to be you staying on top of them, right, to make sure you're mitigating the damage and getting good tenants in there. But we definitely have friends in our network that have 3 student rentals, and they're getting that $2,000 to $3,000 a month in cash flow per month. So it definitely can be done, and it can be done on a lower budget, but it's going to come with more headaches, more management.
And this question was about duplex, triplex, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, should he be targeting duplex, triplex, fourplexes? Probably something.
I think the students are your quickest in 1 year to get it, but yeah, we're gonna have to look at some higher end buildings in order to do that, or multiple triplexes.
Yeah, and then again, like, you know, I think what Jeff's trying to get at there is acquiring 3 or 4 student rentals versus 1 apartment building. You end up doing a lot more leg work, right? Like, as the buyer, a lot more transaction costs, a lot more overhead related to that, whereas if you buy that one purpose-built building, you may get a better net return if you kind of look at it per property basis, per, like, total outflow, so. But everything's very situational with real estate, right? There's not one cookie-cutter approach that we can recommend blanketly to everyone.
Right on. We got a question from Christopher. Kellen's in here helping us out with some questions. I know he had some comments on this one, but what kind of countertops do you guys like to use in your renovations, and do you have any recommendations for primer and paint?
You were just talking about
so like I just shot a video actually that'll be coming up maybe tomorrow. But I love getting used countertops. So particularly if you're dealing with like a smaller footprint kitchen, particularly if the total countertop size you need is under 8 feet, look on Kijiji and Habitat for Humanity or your Restore or wherever used building supplies are sold. And often what you'll find is someone's bought the wrong countertop, but they bought it on sale or they didn't return it in time. So it's literally uncut. So you can customize it to your need. You can cut in the sinkhole wherever needed. But you're going to pay a fraction of the price, usually under $100 for that countertop, and literally brand new. So that's one tip I really love. Otherwise, you know, there's a local company here in London. Their name's escaping me right now that we use. They're in the South End, off of, they're like Clark and Trafalgar area, I want to say, maybe Hamilton Road. Anyway, somewhere around there. Honestly, I'd ask your local landlord network group. If you're from London, Ontario, jump over to the London on Fire Facebook group or the London, Ontario Real Estate Investor group that I manage and ask away there. People are more than happy to share. I know recently Michael Rosehart and Dylan have really been big about, I think it's the Rycore countertops. They've been doing those and they seem to really like them. So that's
and I think you have to be situational on where the house is too.
Yes. So like don't go marble. Yeah. Almost. Like for almost any rental property. Yeah, like unless you're doing high-end executive rentals, usually just having a clean looking kitchen and a decent countertop will go miles, right? Like, and same with like stainless steel sinks. Let's say the stainless steel sink that you have in that kitchen you're renovating is destroyed for whatever reason. First of all, they're actually pretty hard to destroy, but secondly, buy it used. You can get it used for like $10, $20, $40 for that stainless steel sink at a Habitat for Humanity or the Restore, and you're going to save yourself just tons of money, and the tenants will not know the difference because it's just a stainless steel sink.
Agreed.
And then as far as paint, it's been a while. Yeah, so like right now, you know, if you're buying paint in bulk, definitely start going to paint stores and negotiating. So I think recently we just started negotiating with Dulux, and so, you know, there's some give and takes there where, you know, maybe if you buy X quantity, they'll give it to you per gallon at this price versus retail. As well, you can start getting some payment terms, so you don't have to pay for 30, 45, sometimes 60 days if you're structuring your relationship right too. So on like a very quick flip or a quick BRRRR, you know, you won't even have to be out of pocket on that renovation cost potentially. So just another little tip there. As far as like the actual type of paint, I forget. I just use the same paint over and over again. One tip is literally pick like 3 colors and make those your colors. So like we use like a very white, a sort of white, and a gray, and those are like the 3 paint colors I use pretty much everywhere now. And the reason you do that is, first of all, it makes patch painting so much easier, right? If you just need to, there's a hole punched in your wall and you just need to paint that one little spot, it'll blend way much better. In addition to that, that way you don't have to keep paint, like, you either end up with like a warehouse of paint or you have paint cans in every single property. And again, it's just like a messy process. It's much nicer if you can just keep a 5-gallon bucket of paint at your residence and then take it as necessary to any projects. So hopefully that helps.
Cool. Question from Eddie. It has to do with getting approved for a mortgage. If I wanted to buy an investment property, will they look at my gross debt service and my total debt service, which I wasn't even aware of? Even if I have 20 or 30% down, my household income still might not be enough to qualify me, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly correct. So total debt service ratio does matter, as well as the debt service on that particular property. So yeah, it definitely is an issue. Sometimes you can find unique ways to play around with it. So I believe that if you're considered a high net worth individual at certain banks, so let's say, you know, you have more than $1 million in assets or investments or debt at a bank, you may be able to get into one of their, be able to deal with an advisor more one-on-one that's more accustomed to unusual circumstances, and they may be able to actually stretch that debt service ratio, that total debt service ratio for you. But otherwise, you know, if you're trying to play around with your total debt service ratio, is there a way that you can reduce your payments? So I know for myself, when I initially started investing in real estate, the very first property I bought was my principal residence, and it's bad debt because you can't write off for taxes in Canada. So I essentially was like throwing all my money at it. I was doing double payments. So initially, when the banks would go to qualify me, they'd look at that double payment and be like, whoa, man, like your debt service ratio is like, and then what I was able to do was bring them the original contract and show, look, no, actually I only have to pay $400 a month. It's just that I'm weird and paying $1,200 a month on this mortgage. And that was a way to kind of work around that unusual situation. And same with, like, sometimes if you stretch payment terms or renegotiate some of your other debt to get those monthly payments down further, that might help you out on your debt service, your total debt service ratio. But at the end of the day, it will come into play, and there's only so much you can do to manipulate it or get the banks to overlook that.
And hopefully a good like mortgage broker might be able to help you out with that too.
Yeah,
give you some suggestions. And they don't normally care how much money you have in the bank. They just want to see your...
Yeah, like as long as you already have the down payment funds, unless you're getting into a lot of mortgages, so over 5 mortgages, usually having a bunch of extra cash doesn't help as much. And it can be weird, like, and frustrating, where you can have a property that's 80% equity, and you're like, oh, but I have this. And literally they'd rather see you go out, get a HELOC on it, and then borrow that money, have it sitting in cash there for 90 days, and then they're like, oh shit, you got a ton of cash.
Wow.
And it's just like, you're like, this is literally moving from one pocket to the other, but sometimes you have to play those games. But I've talked about this a ton on my channel. It was one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made as a real estate investor, and it was accepting the first no from a bank. So if you go on there and the bank says, total debt service ratio is completely out of whack, no way we can lend to you. Rephrase the question a couple times with that banker. If they still give you no's, go and find other bankers, other mortgage brokers. because usually where there's a will, there's a way, and if not, find a strategic partnership to make it happen.
Do you ever see a Chris Farley movie with the?
I'm sure I have.
What's the one? And they're going around trying to get the steel contract or something.
Oh yeah.
And then the guy's like, no, well, see you later.
Yeah, no, that's the perfect example of negotiating, right? Where it's just like, don't take that first no, because for a lot of people, they just get accustomed to saying no, right? Because like, if you're not going to put the effort in, right? And I've discussed this, I have a separate video on my YouTube channel showing you guys how to impress the bank. So make sure you're getting off on the right foot when you meet with the banker. So show up dressed professionally, show up on time or early, have a folder ready or a USB stick ready with all your relevant documents that they're going to see, right? Like make it easy for them to say yes to you. Yeah. Don't make it a hassle. Don't make them chase after you. Yeah. If they leave you a voicemail, you call them back same day, because that's what you want them to do when you leave them a voicemail. So reciprocate with the type of actions and the level of communication and frequencies you want. So.
And I just want to touch on this too. Like, there's Nathaniel here in the comments. He had a similar question about how can he stretch this conventional, GDS and TDS, and the advice would probably be essentially the same, right? Just develop a relationship with your bank.
Yeah. So developing a relationship with your banker is huge. You will be surprised by what they can do, but at the end of the day, if that bank's not giving you the answer, reach out to other banks, reach out to credit unions, reach out to mortgage brokers. If you want a recommendation for a mortgage broker, Jeff's usually happy to share. So DM him on one of the social medias, and he'll help you out with that if you're in the London, Ontario area. Otherwise, join a real estate networking group in your area, right? So if you're in Winter, join Cashflow Go. If you're in GTA, join Cashflow Go there. And like pick the people's brains, right, in these groups, right? There's no sense reinventing the wheel. And so that's kind of why we're doing these live shows with you guys to answer these questions, simply as we don't want to see you reinvent the wheel, but at the same time, when it comes to exactly trying to finesse all of the rules around lending, it's so situational that you really need to get into the nitty-gritty details to give the perfect answers. So
right on. We've got a question from James. It's a little bit of a relative kind of question, but if someone wanted to be a silent money partner, what would be the minimum amount to invest?
It's
probably situational.
It's so situational, but in general, I would say, if you're looking to be a hard money lender and you want to lend through your RSP, often a lot of people say that you need to lend at least $50,000 to really make the transaction costs associated with that, so the legal fees, the trust fees, and that, to really justify that. I've heard other investors argue that $25,000 is enough to do, but in general, if you're trying to be a money partner, how much money do you need to become a money partner? Well, it's going to come down to, the active partner, what they're seeking in a money partner, as well as what the deal particularly needs. So in general, the way it works is, the most basic type of relationship you're going to see with a money and active partner is money partner brings all the money in the borrowing capacity. The active partner brings the expertise in the deal, as well as the ability or the people to execute on the deal. So if you're coming to me with, say, $20,000 as a money partner, excluding our renovation costs, that's going to limit us to buying a $100,000 property. So that's kind of the way I reverse engineer it. So take the amount of money you're willing to invest as a money partner, if you want to be the only money partner on that deal, and reverse engineer. What does that allow your active partner to buy? So if you're coming with $100,000, it probably means they can acquire a $500,000 property. Is that practical for your market? Is that going to be enough of a deal to make it happen? So again, it's really going to come down to the exact person you're partnering with, but those are some high-level thoughts, in my opinion. So realistically, if you're coming with $5,000, $10,000 and you want to be a money partner, it probably isn't going to be enough money to be a money partner. You may be able to do hard money lending, usually because, again, you're dealing with that under $25,000 amount. It's probably going to be unsecured, just because there's going to be a lot of legal and other costs associated with setting up the secured. If you're only lending $5,000 to $10,000. Yeah, you may just have like a basic note, but it won't be like secured in the it won't be a second mortgage on a property or anything like that.
Yeah. We had a question about your Toronto meetup. Someone that can't make it, they want to know when and if you guys will do another Toronto meetup.
Well, we should probably go live while we're there, so
yeah,
you can watch.
Yeah, we'll try and go live so that you can experience some of it, but we definitely will be having more meetups.
And you want to hit up Mitt in that to tell them when the February one in the GTA should be, so you can make it.
Yeah, so if you're in the Cashflow if you're in the Cashflow to Go Facebook group already, hit up Mid CPA. He's the one managing for us, and give him your feedback. Let him know, man. Like,
he's a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
If you don't, maybe you're already friends with him.
Yeah. But yeah, like, we're open to suggestions. We want it to become a monthly thing, but it's going to really depend on the sort of groundswell and support we get from the local investor community. So if you can't make it, definitely still leave a comment in that Facebook group just to let us know, like, oh man, I'm definitely going to be there next time, so that we know to keep doing this, because it's really just a labor of love at this point. So.
Right on. We had another question here from Eddie. If there's a property that is really run down, is it true that a bank will not give you a mortgage on it and you have to buy in cash?
Possible, but it's going to be like, is it livable? So they want to see, like, is there like a kitchen, and potentially can heat go on?
Bathroom.
Does
it have electricity, water, and heat?
I've seen some good listings where they're like, this is not for first time home buyers. Like, stay away, you know? Like, even though it's nice and cheap, right? Like, no, the property is. So look for that, right?
So yeah, in general, for the 5 major banks in Canada, if it's not in livable or habitable condition, which means it needs running water, it needs electricity, it needs heat. In addition, they're going to want to see at least something that resembles a bathroom and a kitchen. They're going to make it really difficult for you to get a traditional mortgage on it. You may be able to get some sort of construction or renovation mortgage on it, but in general, what myself and some of my partners do is, it's often a lot of pass on those situations. So if possible, we'll often buy in cash and just make sure that we're able to do it in a short period of time. One of the benefits of buying in cash is when you go to refinance, usually you're in a bit of a stronger position with the bank as well. You don't have to worry about any sort of breaking fees or other overhead costs kind of associated with that. So.
I think the reason too, I'm not a mortgage broker, is because if you can't pay your mortgage payments, then the bank has a derelict property, and then they're back to square one.
Exactly, and the banks don't want to be in the business of selling uninhabitable properties. It's just, from their perspective, it's bad for business. But in addition, like, reach out to your local hard money lenders, you know, private money. In addition, local credit unions, sometimes they have more ability to think outside the box or think outside the banks. So again, I'd recommend that if you find that great property. But in addition, let's say you do find an amazing property but completely unlivable and there's no way you can get a mortgage. Don't just walk away from that property. There's still an opportunity there. You could wholesale it, right? You can assign the contract. There's still lots of ways to make money in real estate without actually being the investor, without being the guy that does the BRRRR, the person that flips the property. So don't let that opportunity slip through your fingers just because you can't finance it.
Right on. Question from Jonas K. Do you guys get tenants to walk through, do you guys try to get tenants before the reno is done, and do you do walkthroughs before renos are done?
That's a great question. My experience has been, it takes a very special tenant to look through a construction site. Most of them just can't envision what you're about to accomplish. And that can even be at the point where you literally have the kitchen roughed in, but there aren't appliances and it's not painted, and the flooring's not down or the flooring's not finished. A lot of tenants.
Another problem could be, so we're in January right now, and let's say we're gonna be ready for February 1.
Yeah.
And then that person's got it rented, right? But now we're delayed on renos. So like, it's challenging to pick that date.
It definitely puts you at risk a bit too, right? So you really need to be on top of your timeline to recruit, and on top of kind of your renovations.
And then the other one was the walkthrough, like for checklist kind of thing.
Well, like, do you just show the tenants the units while you're in construction, right?
So like, we've definitely done in the past. You know, on some of the really higher end stuff, sometimes people will understand, but in general, I think that it's a lot more difficult. There's nothing wrong with doing it though, but definitely understand that if people are constantly not renting your property and you're showing it under construction, don't panic. It's not necessarily the end of the world. It could just be that they're not able to look past the mess. And if you're literally at the point where you're just gutting it, 99.9% of tenants will not be able to see past that.
Think to me as a real estate agent trying to show a property that under construction. Everybody wants, they don't even like if the walls are a different color, right?
Right? Well, because they're focused on, does my couch fit here? Does my dining set? And so like, if where they want to put their dining set is just a pile of rubble or a bunch of countertops and boxes that haven't been put together yet, and most people just can't see past that. So in general, I'd recommend focusing on getting your renovations at least to that 90% plus done before showing it.
Maybe take applications.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, right? And you can still put the ads up, and like, you know, maybe you're 2 weeks away from being 95% done. start putting the ads, but don't book showings until 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
That way, also, you'll have a much better understanding of how your renovations are going. Is everything still on time?
And maybe, is the price you're kind of like hoping for, are you getting responses?
Yeah, it's still great to, you know, get the room, the temperature room, right? Like to figure out whether people are hot to buy it or to rent at that price point.
Just reminded me to do it myself, so.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's true. So, literally right now, Jeff, maybe talk
I'm in a similar situation. I'm going through rentals. I don't know when it's going to finish exactly. I'm not panicking. I don't need the tenant tomorrow or 30 days from now. So, but it would be a good idea for me to just put out a feeler ad. But then the problem is you don't have the photos ready, and then you might just get. But if I put the price high and I get a few people asking, well, it's not the end of the world then, is it? So you keep them in your database, and you never know.
Yeah.
So maybe they find out they're looking for furnished, and you can like go down that path now, right? So
yeah, for sure.
Question from Cody: how do you guys get tenants out of a property in order to get it under contract, assign, renovate, and rent again?
I've been getting this question a ton recently on my channel.
We've talked about it. Watch The Godfather.
They wake up with a dead horse head and they're dead. I'm just saying, they move out fast. But no, honestly, there's a million different ways to approach it. In general, when possible, we like to make it the seller's problem, right? Smart sellers usually won't take on that headache, but the way you approach it, I think we touched upon it last time, but we do A/B offers. So you say, look, I'll pay $140 for this property as is with the tenants, or I'll pay $150 with the tenants gone. Now you've incentivized that seller to figure out a way to find a win-win with that tenant. Otherwise, let's say you've already taken possession, you're past the point where you could get it to be the seller's problem. First of all, talk to the tenants, right? They're people, they may understand, they may empathize with your situation. Otherwise, if the property is in really bad shape, if it's not considered habitable, you can often get them moved out based on that if it's really in bad shape. Otherwise, if they're problem tenants, if they're disturbing others, or if they're not paying you and stuff like that, you can go through the usual eviction process and get them out based on that. In general though, I'd much rather see people find a win-win, right? Like offer to pay for their moving costs, give them 1 month's free rent, or find another landlord in your network and find a win-win that way and be like, hey man, I need these people to move out because I'm doing this BRRRR thing on this property, but I know you got this available for rent. They're great tenants, it's just I need to get in there to do my renovations.
And it could be great, and it's just they're not paying the market rent there. So maybe it's possible that same shift could be the same money.
Yeah.
Because maybe
exactly.
It's less money, right?
And in general as well, like often if you renegotiate with the tenants, you can maybe find a win-win. Maybe there's a situation where right now they don't have laundry or a dishwasher and their kitchen's dated. Maybe you can offer them, you know, if you go and we'll figure something out, you stay in this property of mine for a month, I'll go and fix it up, get it like really nice brand new, and we'll add all these new amenities. Would you be willing to pay a higher rent? Now, depending on your exact geographic region, you may have rules against that or that help support that. You're gonna have to become an expert in your local, like the rules for your region, because it literally varies state by state or province by province, sometimes even city by city or municipality by municipality. So become an expert in the rules, and then if you can't find a win-win, use those rules to your advantage.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, so we're at it's 25 after 6. I've got a couple questions lined up if you guys want to.
All right, so if you're still watching this, though, definitely smash that like button. If you haven't smashed the like button already.
We'll try to hit all the questions quick.
Yeah, right on. Give us some rapid fires.
Okay, well these ones maybe aren't rapid fire, but do you guys think entering a niche such as investor marketing like Jeff has done in real estate agent could be replicated by a mortgage agent?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Next question.
Well, this is the last question.
Well, definitely because you become the expert, and guys are going to go to you, and just all these people buying investment properties, they'll funnel it through you. You're going to get paid. Versus all these people buying residential, going through all these agents over here. Maybe you get paid.
Honestly, if you become good at helping investors get what they want, they will refer and brag about you nonstop. Honestly, we have it with bankers, right? There's a couple of Bank of Nova Scotia contacts that myself, Kellen, Dylan, the whole crew use, and once we get to know a person one-on-one and trust them, we're more than happy to share that reference.
Yeah, and just a normal couple that buying a residential house, okay, they buy it, they use you, maybe they use you in 5 years again, maybe they tell their friends and family to use you, maybe they just hear about Sally bought a house. You didn't even get a chance to come up and be like, oh, did you use my mortgage broker or agent, right? So I would focus on the niche.
And if you're going to focus on that niche, again, become good at showing the value you're providing, right? So don't even just focus on getting them this one deal, but help them plan their portfolio. First of all, it's going to be better for them if they're able to acquire more properties. Yeah. And if you're helping them acquire those more properties, you're going to get serial mortgages off these people.
One of the guys in the city here will talk about, you know, get that fourplex, then that duplex, and then go for a single family.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good for most
kids. And if you're approaching it through a house hacking approach, that's genius. It's the perfect approach.
I'm just 2 years into my rental investing. Sometimes I encourage problems with tenants and thinking of quitting and doing flips instead.
Every day.
Yeah. Has anyone else had the same experience, and how do you manage?
Well, I will just say, guys, you got to remember, these are your clients. So if they bring a problem to you, like if they're paying $1,000 a month for rent, which is like, just call it an easy number. They're paying $12 grand to you annually. To your store, is what I like to call it. Is there much businesses out there where you spend, maybe you're buying a car, maybe not this group, but not some people are spending $12,000 annually at a store. So like, if you can, I know that's parking issues and the snow's in the way and it's hot, it's cold, this is leaking, and like, unfortunately, they're just this customer that's paying you $1,000 a month. And if you can think of them as like some kind of a customer or client or something like that, because right away I want to put my back to the wall every time. It's like, what? It's hot, it's cold, this is broken, this is this, and you're just like, you gotta try to turn it around. It's your business. You're running a business, and you know, I'm dealing with some people that are not paying right now, but they came to me early, thankfully, and we worked out a little bit of a payment plan. Is that ideal? No, but I guess we're bigger portfolios now. It's not as bad as if you're only 2 years in now. Maybe that cash flow is hurting, but like I would just like try to like step back from the problem and solve it on a bigger scale than like the individual complaint.
Yeah, like never approach it emotionally. I know that when I get in the head frame or in the mind frame and I'm emotional about the complaint, then nothing good comes of it, right? The moment you get emotional about it. As well, like whether it's right or wrong, often your tenants just want someone to listen.
Yes.
And so like way more often than we probably should have to, we end up being their therapist. But if you can be good at just listening for 5 or 10 minutes, then summarizing their problem and moving forward, often the problem will go away. But the alternative is, if not everyone's cut out for property management, and that's okay. You can outsource this, right? Or what we've seen other people in our network do is instead of outsourcing it, they find a strategic partner, right? And they'll partner with someone that's much better at managing the property, or someone that has the time to do the hands-on customer service relationships that Jeff's talking about. Another great thing that you're way better at than I am currently, Jeff, is getting in front of the problem, right? And building up goodwill in advance. So giving the Christmas present or the move-in little package and things like that. Get off on the right foot. If you get off on the wrong foot with a tenant, it will take forever to get that relationship back to par. If you get off on a good foot though, you can like, they'll give you the benefit of the doubt way more often than they otherwise would if they got that Christmas present from you. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. I think like the only other problem here or question I've got is
there's only profits.
No problems.
I've been chatting with Magical Beans a little bit in the chat. He's a teenager. He wants to know what he can do to get into real estate other than reading books. Some great people, fans of yours, probably Matt, suggested they watch all your videos.
That's a great sound.
He said he's already done that. The real issue is that he's an immigrant. He's got his parents think that the traditional education is the only way to go. They don't want him to get into real estate investing until after he's got a traditional education. I've recommended maybe doing summertime jobs for real estate investor or construction jobs. Sounds like that hasn't really been any luck. I don't know if you guys could offer any other advice to young people that maybe have, parents trying to block them from, doing their dream in real estate.
Yeah, and so, it's tough. At the end of the day, you do need to remember that regardless of whether your parents are right or wrong, they almost always will at least have your best interest at heart. So, they're coming usually from a point where they're trying to help, whether their advice is helpful or not. So, just...
I think we're in this 10-year weird transition of parents that are at their age now telling their kids how...
And they grew up in a completely different economy than the economy we have today.
Yeah, because you're going to get done school and then you're going to have to go take your next program. And
yeah.
All that.
Well, and the funny thing is, this just kind of came to me now, so I may be stealing it from a book I've read before, but I would bet that if you were to look 100 years ago, our economy was way more entrepreneur oriented. There was all the small stores and shops and like farmers and just all that, right? Way more widespread. Then, you know, most of the people that are, say, in their early teens to even almost 30s today, their parents or our parents grew up, you know, more in the 50s, 60s, and that was the big business corporate culture. It was when the stock market was expanding, when North American economy was just on fire. And so that's when becoming an employee was a great angle. I think now we're starting to see with the democratization of information in general, in our current like information economy, is that this turn back to the entrepreneurship model, right? So you gotta understand that the world they grew up in is not the same world you're growing up with. So the advice they're giving you, like Jeff often says, is to fight the last war, not today's war. So again, they're not going to understand that probably, so this isn't overly helpful other than...
Short of buying them Rich Dad, Poor Dad and reading it to them, yeah, it's tough. And we don't want to like put you against your parents or anything like that. So.
But so in general, you know, okay, if I was 16, 17 years old today and I wanted to get into real estate, how would I do? Well, if your parents or family aren't supportive, you probably don't have access to a lot of money to execute on deals. So I'm going to set that idea aside for now. So the alternative is, you know, you can find a mentor or someone else that'll either let you work, ideally get paid for it, or consider the idea of working for free for a bit and just learn as much as you can about their business. But like, make sure you're actually learning. Don't just like go there to stuff envelopes. Find out why you're stuffing those envelopes. Find out why that yellow letter campaign is written the way it is, why they're hitting up the neighborhoods they're hitting up, things like that. Alternatively, if you really want to start trying to make money in real estate, you know, there's that, I think he's like 18 or 19, Phil deals with that one wholesaler, right? Like a young guy that's still going to like university or college and is wholesaling real estate actively.
I joke he's doing this in his room.
In his dorm room, yeah.
Yeah, and like parents wouldn't even know.
Yeah, and so like you can definitely still like become an information broker essentially is what we're saying. Find the interesting deal and then put together the person that has the money or the interest in executing on the deal with the motivated seller you found. And per growth, you can probably take, you know, somewhere between either a $500 to $1,000 finder's fee, or if you're actually assigning a contract, you could be getting like 10 or 20% of the net purchase price. So just some food for thought. Again, that's not easy. It's going to take a while for you to build that up. You're going to have to put in a lot of effort, but I would just look at it as the same way that you pay tuition to go to a post-secondary education. Think of the time that you're spending either working for free or next to free, or the time you're spending scraping Kijiji, Craigslist, all that as just tuition, a learning experience, right? You're doing an apprenticeship in real estate.
And when you're making your parents' Lexus payments, then they'll understand.
And the funny thing is, people never understand until you're already successful, right? Like, yeah, I'm maybe at the point now where my parents don't bust my balls about buying more properties, but literally last year it was still a thing. So, just food for thought. You're never going to please everyone. But I appreciate you guys watching this video. Smash that like button if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to my channel and Jeff's channel if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channels. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Appreciate you taking the time to watch.